Some of the wolves were killed in the struggle, but the rest vanished into alleys of the city, leaving Paris in a state of fear.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the wildest historical events that would make great movies. To be clear, while some of these may be referenced on the silver screen or appeared in documentaries, none have received the full film treatment. The Battle of Castle Itter.
In the small village of Itter, Austria, lies a medieval castle named Schloss Itter. The castle was seized by SS Lieutenant General Oswald Pohl under orders from Heinrich Himmler on February 7, 1943.
This World War II battle saw a small group of strange allies hold an Austrian castle-turned-POW camp against an approaching German panzer division. The defenders included troops from an American tank battalion and French prisoners, whose members included 2 former French prime ministers, multiple French military commanders, and Charles de Gaulle's sister. Even more bizarre is that they were aided by German soldiers and an SS commander who had defected. The group held off the Nazi attack until Jean Barotra, a tennis star, could return with reinforcements after vaulting the fortress wall. Oh, and the ex-SS guy died taking a bullet for one of the ex-French prime ministers. How is this not a movie yet? Olga of Kiev's Revenge. Everyone loves a good revenge story, and this one has all the makings of a bloody R-rated affair. Olga's husband Igor was murdered by the Drevlians, who then had the audacity to propose that she marry his killer, Prince Mal. To get back at them, Olga at first pretended to accept their offer. However, she actually had their messengers burned or buried alive. Olga then pretended to want to throw a wake for her late husband in the city where he died. However, she had her men massacre the drunken Drevlians at the party, before laying siege to the city and burning it down, using birds to spread the fire.
Her revenge, recorded in the Primary Chronicle, has since become the stuff of legend.
Since she was later named a saint, maybe they could call it Saint of Vengeance. Mansa Musa's Pilgrimage.
Ruling the Mali Empire in the 14th century CE, Mansa Musa, or the King of Kings, amassed a fortune that possibly made him one of the wealthiest people who ever lived.
Often considered one of the wealthiest men to ever live, Mansa Musa ruled Mali in the 14th century. Between 1324 and 1325, Musa made a Hajj or pilgrimage to Mecca. Musa gave generously on his way there. Maybe too much.
In 1375, the Catalan Atlas map added the Mali Empire, with a drawing of an African king sitting on the golden throne in Timbuktu with a piece of gold in his hand.
Although he reportedly built many mosques, Musa also gave away so much gold that he may have destabilized the economies of multiple countries. He also ran out of money to the point where he had to borrow some of what he gave away on the return trip, even going into debt. Musa's absurd journey would make a crazy historical road movie. Plus, we need more movies about Africa. The disappearing village at Anjakuni Lake.
There were records showing that the Royal Canadian Mounted Police had investigated the case again in 1931. These Mounties stated that they discovered an uninhabited settlement, but they deemed it to be either a seasonal or permanent abandonment of the site with no mysterious overtones and closed the case.
In 1930, in what is now known as the Nunavut Territory in Canada, fur trapper Joe LaBelle discovered that an Inuit village near Lake Anjakuni had apparently disappeared. The villagers were nowhere to be seen, with their food and belongings still laying where they left them, suggesting they'd left suddenly. A grave had also been unearthed, and a team of sled dogs had starved to death. The incident is often connected with alien abduction theories or supernatural native legends. While many have questioned the veracity of the story, even if it is a fabrication, it would still make for a great sci-fi or horror movie. The Cadaver Synod. Ecclesiastical gatherings and trials are all the rage these days, and yet one of history's most bizarre religious trials has yet to make it to the big screen.
Pope Formosus, you stand accused of heresy, lying, and conspiring to be pope. What say you to those charges?
Pope Stephen VI is best remembered for initiating a tribunal against one of his predecessors, Pope Formosus, after Formosus was already dead. The late Pope's corpse was propped up on a throne, and a deacon was appointed to answer for him to refute the charges against him. Formosus was found guilty, had 3 of his fingers cut off, and he was buried again in a different grave, only to be dug up again and thrown into the river. Pope Stephen, meanwhile, was overthrown and killed in prison. Politics, courtroom drama, grave digging, this has it all.
Pope Formosus was shortly restored of his papacy, and his demonizing undone, and a law was set in place that no person after death can be tried and persecuted for what they might have done.
The fake RMS Carmania.
The Cunard liner RMS Carmania, newly converted to an armed merchant cruiser, was patrolling the South Atlantic Ocean when she encountered a baffling sight near the tiny island of Trindade.
In 1914, Germany lacked warships, so they decided to arm one of their ocean liners with guns. The SMS Cap Trafalgar was retrofitted to resemble the RMS Carmania, a British luxury liner. Its mission was to use its disguised appearance to harass and sink British merchant vessels who would be none the wiser until it was too late. It was a brilliant plan. However, after a fruitless first voyage, the Cap Trafalgar finally encountered a British ship. The only problem? It was the real RMS Carmania, which had also been given armaments.
The ship they had just come face to face with, the first ship of the Cap Trafalgar's top-secret Q-boat mission, was the Carmania, the ship they were disguised as them.
The Cap Trafalgar was promptly sunk after a battle against the ship it intended to imitate. The world deserves this comedic historical naval action movie. Toronto Circus Riot.
How does a fight between a clown and a fireman end up reshaping Toronto's reputation alongside its police force?
A fireman and a clown walking into a brothel sounds like a good setup for a joke, and we'd argue for a movie. In July 1855, a group of circus clowns and a group of volunteer firefighters got into a fight at a bordello in Toronto, Canada. The clowns won the day, but that wasn't the end. The firefighters came to the circus the next day and burned some of the circus's wagons.
People were throwing stones, setting tents on fire, and when the Hook and Ladder Firefighting Company showed up, not to put out the fires, but to join the fight, all hell broke loose.
More firefighters arrived, but instead of doing their jobs, they helped their comrades in their mayhem. The mayor had to call in a militia to stop the violence. Oh, and because the police failed to prosecute, most of the police force was fired. The real circus was Toronto all along. The Wolves of Paris. While the exact year is somewhat debated, several accounts agree that during the early 15th century, Paris was attacked by a marauding pack of man-eating wolves during a harsh winter. The pack's leader was nicknamed Cortu or Bobtail, and they killed several dozen people throughout that winter, leaving many in fear of leaving their homes.
Cortot and the other grey wolf packs that roamed the forests outside of Paris instilled an overwhelming amount of fear in Parisians and foreigners.
According to the stories, a group of Parisians banded together to ambush the wolves, driving them into Notre Dame and killing them all with rocks and weapons. This has all the makings of a great horror or thriller film, with the ravenous beasts and winter setting giving it plenty of scare potential. The Man Who Rode the Thunder. Survival stories have proven to be successful movies in the past, and this is a contender for the most incredible.
At 6 p.m. on a summer night in 1959, pilot Lieutenant Colonel William Rankin's F-8 suffered an engine failure while flying at 47,000 feet at 500 knots. The failure was followed by a fire warning, then a system failure. Rankin was about to have a very bad day.
William Rankin was a Marine pilot. While flying a jet over a cumulonimbus cloud, his engine failed and he was forced to eject. Rankin's parachute opened early, and he spent 40 minutes after ejection being pelted by hailstones and thrown about by the storm. He suffered frostbite, extreme decompression, and bruising. He even nearly drowned in mid-air.
He tried to hold his breath, but it was a very dangerous thing to do while falling at breakneck speed.
But he still made it safely to the ground. Rankin wrote a book about the experience, but a movie could take his incredible story to amazing heights with the right director and effects.
Hitching a ride turned out to be a tough task. Imagine a man standing on the side of the road, covered in blood and dressed in a soaked, ripped-up flight suit. No wonder there weren't many volunteers to give him a lift. But eventually, someone picked him up and drove to a payphone where Rankin managed to call for an ambulance.
Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into settings and switch on your notifications. 1904's disastrous Olympic marathon.
The 1904 St. Louis Olympic Marathon was a disaster. It was a story of fraud, thievery, raw eggs, rat poison, food poisoning, liquor, feral dogs, and at least 3 separate incidents of near death. It was the stupidest sporting event of all time.
The Olympic Games are usually a spectacle, but the men's marathon at the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis was a cavalcade of insane events. Firstly, the organizer, James Edward Sullivan, set up only one water station along the dusty, hot roads the competitors were running on purpose. This led to only 14 out of the 32 of them finishing. The initial first-place winner was disqualified after the discovery he'd hitchhiked part of the way. The actual winner had taken performance-enhancing drugs, which were basically rat poison. The fourth to arrive took a nap after eating rotten fruit, which he stole. And that's just scratching the surface. Give this story to someone like the Coen brothers, and let them bring this comedy of errors to life again. Is there a bizarre historical story we're nuts for forgetting? Tell us your favorites in the comments.
The war was over, but the submarine, developed in peacetime, took its place with the airplane as a major destructive force.